Jenny, are you ready now?
Looks like she might be having some technical
Maybe she has
problems.
audio.
Yeah. Oh, she's good.
Okay, awesome. Well, it is 3:01, so I think we will get started. Good afternoon, everyone. We have about 50 people joining us on the call. We know it's been a long week already, and it was a long night for many of us and for the country as a whole. So we appreciate you joining us today and appreciate the time you took out of your first week back, probably from vacation. We are going to cover a number of topics. We're going to stay right within the hour. And so feel free to come and go if you need to. We are going to cover some information about our COVID screening program, a few updates for the colleges in terms of leadership transition, budget development and where we are with the budget process, program health, which is our program prioritization process. And then Karen and I are going to give a little bit of an academic affairs update and talk about our transition. And then we'll take any questions and have closing remarks if we have time. So the mandatory COVID screening program, you've all received emails about. Many of you have already been screened. I do have Dr. Rex Force here to talk about this, I believe, or answer questions if we have questions about it. Rex, are you on the call?
I am. Yep. I popped in a minute late, but I'm here. Hi, everybody.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Karen. And thank you, Darren, for putting the slides together. There is a lot of information about our screening program on the Roaring Back website. Obviously, there's been some email communication already about this program. A long email went out on Monday related to this. Many of the questions that people have are answerable with the frequently asked questions sections on these pages, but there are a lot of nuances and a lot of special circumstances. If people still have questions, they can contact the COVID hotline or email address covid@health.isu.edu, being that email address. We are implementing a mandatory screening program for individuals who will have a regular presence on campus. And what we mean by a regular presence, if folks are on campus interacting with individuals and really what we would call even a contact, right? From a public health perspective, meaning I'm interacting with Dr. Appleby for 15 minutes a couple of times a week. Even with face coverings and distancing and everything else that we have in place, that's an on-campus presence. Just a few minutes, a couple of times a week is how we're defining that. For students, we're defining it as any on-campus coursework, not online. And high flex counts as on campus, just at least from a first screen perspective. We are asking that individuals be screened twice during 2 windows here initially in the beginning of the semester. And the reason that we're doing this is because we expect that there will be a significant uptick in COVID cases related to the holidays and travel and families getting together and that sort of thing. So our first screening window started yesterday, January 6th, and goes until next Thursday, the 14th. The second screening window begins immediately thereafter, January 15th, and ends on the 22nd. And our goal is to have the 2 tests spaced by about 5 to 7 days. So we don't want people doing a test in the first window on the 14th and then turning around and doing their second test on the 15th. That doesn't make sense. We're trying to cast a wider net to be able to pick up asymptomatic individuals. Now, this is, I think, important. We're only looking for folks that are asymptomatic. So you'll be asked when you come through the screening line, do you have symptoms? Have you recently been exposed? That puts you in a different bucket, and we will be dealing with that through our typical contact tracing processes on campus. This is for folks who have not been exposed in the last 14 days, aren't currently under quarantine, and not currently recovering from an active COVID infection. In fact, COVID in the last 180 days, 6 months, exempts you from this process, and there are exemption forms that can be filled out to be able to get out of screening, so to speak, if people have been ill. And we had over 400 cases on campus that we know of over the course of the fall. So these screenings are non-invasive. It's saliva-based testing. I've worked in the testing center the last 2 mornings, and I can tell you that it's not always easy to get the saliva sample. There's a lot of drooling that needs to happen, and drooling on demand is sometimes a little difficult. So I would encourage you to hydrate before you come in, but not in the hour before you are scheduled for your appointment. We can't have anyone eating or drinking, smoking, vaping, chewing gum, candy, anything like that in the hour before the test. But I would encourage you to hydrate that earlier than the hour before the test. And it does sometimes take just a minute or so to deposit the sample, and other times it takes a reasonable 15, 20 minutes to get it done. We for the morning tests, we often will get the results back the next day. These tests are the PCR test, which is polymerase chain reaction, and that test is really the most accurate test that's available. It's not an antigen test, which has more problems with false positive results, for example. We will get these results back typically within about 24 to 48 hours, depending on weekends, holidays, and otherwise. Sometimes it may be 72 hours to get a test back. And we have both walk-up and drive-through options on all 3 of our primary campuses. That is Idaho Falls, Meridian, and Pocatello. There are walk-up and drive-through options. And you can sign up by clicking on the link in the email that went out from the university on Monday, or utilizing the link that Darren's put in this slide here. And Laura and Karen, I assume we might get some questions later on, but I'll stick around for the remainder of the hour. But that in a nutshell is the COVID screening program. I will tell everybody else, just in terms of disease update on campus over the holidays, as you might expect, we haven't had many cases reported. In fact, in the last reporting period, I think it was just 11 COVID cases reported. But as I said, I think we're going to see additional cases here as we come back from the holidays and people gather back on campus. The disease certainly hasn't gone away. And I would encourage everyone to continue all of the other disease mitigation activities, the face coverings, the distancing, staying home if you're ill, lots of hand washing and hand sanitizing, all of those kinds of things as we move into the semester.
Thank you, Rex. And as Rex noted, there will be questions potentially at the end, and we should have plenty of time for those. Ginny Larimore is joining us again, and she will help us manage our questions and facilitate our chat box as well. We do have an update on face coverings, and I'm going to turn it over to Darren for that update. Go ahead, Darren.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. So we have face coverings again this semester, as you well know. ISU is going to provide you one of the black ones. again, the orange ones weren't as popular. I don't understand. So we got you at least one black one. Some individuals, faculty, were offered clear face coverings and took the opportunity to get those. Those are ordered and are here. Those both will be distributed within this to next week. So you should be seeing it within the next week and a half. They're stuffing envelopes now as we talk. The clear, if you need additional face coverings, especially the clear, because they're probably more disposable, you can get onto Bengal Depot and you can order them through your department or college and get those. You should be able to get those under the COVID costs, so it shouldn't be affecting your budgets. But those are available because we all know that that does not always happen, that they last forever. Additionally, if you need cleaning supplies and things like that, don't hesitate to go to Bengal Depot and get those as well. That's all I have.
Thanks, Darren. We also have a leadership update from the College of Health. Rex, do you want to give us that update? He may have stepped away for a moment, but I can certainly speak to that. We are hiring a dean in the division, and many of you are involved in that search, and that search should be wrapping up this spring is the plan. For College of Technology, as many of you know, Scott Rasmussen retires on January 15, and we are very excited that Debbie Ronnieberg has agreed to become interim dean. She's transitioning into that role now. We are in the process in the provost office of identifying a timeline for hiring a new dean. That's still to be determined, and Debbie has agreed graciously to serve in the interim role until a new dean is hired at some point down the road. That brings us to our budget development update. Our budget team has been working really hard in the last couple of months to get our data together so that we can see our budget data in a different way, that we can make better decisions in terms of forecasting. They've done an amazing job of doing that. And for this update, I'm going to turn it over to Glenn, who is joining us as well.
Thank you, Laura, and good afternoon. Jen Steele is also on with us as well. And I just want to echo what Laura said, that the budget team has been just doing an amazing and fabulous job over the last several months of getting us ready for this budget cycle. We started off on a multi-year process to be more deliberate about our budget setting process and to really be open and transparent with the information we had, so that the leadership team across the university can make informed decisions about our budget going forward. And Jen's been a big piece of that. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that the enrollment management group, Stacy Phelan, and Lynn Reddington and others in their area have been working very hard at projecting enrollments so that we can have a firm starting point as we make our decisions. So with that, in January this month, we will have our initial budget projections. And what we mean by that is, what are our projected revenues for this year? And that's actually based on hard data and with some assumptions regarding enrollments. And so we'll build a budget, we'll build a revenue forecast for next year. We'll then look at what our base expenditures are for next year. And in that revenue build, we'll also be looking at what we expect to come out of the legislature. And so we will start the process with having a projected revenue and a projected expense, so we know where we are as we move forward. That's taking place this month, and we'll be sharing numbers with Leadership Council, preliminary numbers with Leadership Council next week. Also in January, we'll be having budget meetings with the unit leads. And by the end of the month, we'll be passing out budget materials to all the units. We'll be having a campus open forum. We'll have drop-in Q&A sessions as well. And we will be developing the professional fee recommendations in the month of January. As we move into February, we'll have tuition and fee hearings if there will be any increases in tuition and fees for next year, or recommended tuition and fee increases. We'll also be having an open forum or two in February and continue with the drop-in Q&A sessions. As we move into March, the unit budget materials will be due back into the budget office. And then we will have the facilities and IT project prioritization and approval take place, moving through Leadership Council and Admin Council. In April, we'll have unit budget presentations to Leadership Council. Leadership Council prioritization and recommendations will also take place in April. And then we will have final budget approval and budgets distributed to units by the end of May. So the timeline, while it may look aggressive, we are actually in very good position this year compared to prior years at the start. And I expect us to continue to make improvements as we move over the next couple of years. But this is what the timeline is for the spring. And then at the end, we'll be able to answer any questions.
Thank you, Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
Program health is our program prioritization process. As many of you know, this is a process that is required by the State Board of Ed. There is a program prioritization policy at the state board level. Our program prioritization process is in alignment with that policy, but it also utilizes metrics that were identified by and approved by the Faculty Senate. And I'm going to turn this over to Joanne Topol, who's been the lead person in the Provost office for this process. So go ahead, Joanne.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I'll just give a brief update on where we are now and what's left to accomplish. And as you know, last fall, you worked with your chairs and program directors to review your programs and use the new program health model to evaluate the programs. You scored your programs, crafted narratives about the factors that influence the scores. And I would like to take this opportunity to give you a big thank you for all the hard work you put into this. I know it's a very comprehensive model, and it took a lot of work to come up with the scores and the narratives. So thank you very much for all your work. At this point, the deans should be finishing up their scoring and arriving at the quintiles. And as you know, we are required by the State Board of Education to place the programs into quintiles. This portion is due to academic affairs by January 15th. So what's next? Academic affairs will review the quintile lists and narratives from the colleges and create a master list that will be distributed to Faculty Senate, the Council of Deans, and Administrative Council. And they will have from January 30th to February 19th to review this information and provide feedback to the programs that are in quintiles 4 and 5 to use in developing action plans. And as you see on the slide, there are several options for programs in the 4th and 5th quintiles in constructing action plans and suggesting ways to support and shore up some of our programs. So you will be working with your chairs and program directors to draft the action plans, and you will have that feedback from those 3 groups. And the colleges will have their own internal deadlines for getting those action plans to the deans. The deans will then review the action plans and work with the programs and faculty on adjustments. So there are still a number of opportunities for faculty participation in this process, you're not finished yet. Action plans that take effect in the 2021-22 academic year and that affect the upcoming budget are due by March 5th, but all of the other action plans are due to academic affairs by May 1st. Faculty will be able to review the final packet, including the action plans, the week of May 10th. Academic Affairs will update the packet after the final faculty review and submit it to Administrative Council for approval. The deans will provide the programs with the approved action plans. And Academic Affairs will submit an executive summary and packet of this information, including the quintile lists and the action plans, to the State Board of Education in June. And that is an update on where we are with program health.
Thanks, Joanne. That leads us to our academic affairs update. A little bit about the transition here. My last day is January 15. Karen's first day is January 18th. Karen, however, has been graciously spending her time in the Provost office, attending meetings and briefings so that we don't have any kind of gap in coverage. The academic affairs team created a very comprehensive desk book for Karen that covers a lot of the projects that are in process and a lot of the processes that are ongoing. In addition to that, we do have a provost search launching. This is very early in the process, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what the timing will look like. That search will launch sometime this spring with the goal of filling the provost role permanently by in 2022. So there's quite a bit of time for that. And there will be a broad search committee formed to assist with that process. In addition to that, Academic Affairs has some transitions occurring. As you may know, Karen will need to be backfilled for her work on PI, and we're working on that. And Joanne Tokel is returning to the faculty in the spring. So at the end of this contract year, Joanne's done an amazing job on so many things. And there was a point this last spring during the pandemic response when Joanne was running academic affairs because I did not have time to move the entire camp or help everyone move the campus online and deal with all of those policy related issues and the day-to-day operations. So Joanne has done an amazing amount of work this past year and has certainly earned all of our gratitude as she returns to a faculty position in the College of Business. So those are updates on our transitions in academic affairs. You'll hear a lot more about these as we move forward. And that gives us about a half an hour for any questions that you may have.
Excellent. Laura, I will jump right in. The first one I'm going to address to you. Is there any update on faculty application for promotion and tenure this year?
I'm not sure exactly what that, if that refers to the raises themselves or to the process, but the process is moving forward. We are seeing those portfolios arrive in the provost office. Those are reviewed early in the spring in the provost office, and they go through a process that results in notification by the end of the spring term. There isn't any concern about continuity in that process, and we are also funding the promotion bumps this year without any concern about that. So hopefully that answers that question.
Great, thank you. I'll let them ask any follow-ups if they have them. The next question I'm going to give to Rex. Rex, would you mind giving an update on the College of Health Dean?
Sure. We are moving forward with the offer phase of that search, and hope to have that negotiation completed here in the next week or so. That's the short answer. It's moving forward. We have a very strong candidate, very interested in ISU.
Excellent. Thank you, Rex. This next question is for Glenn, budget related. Will there be raises this year for faculty and staff? Last year, there were no raises for faculty and staff. Is that correct? Glenn might have stepped away. I'll put that one on hold for just a second.
Or I can help with that, Jenny.
Yes, please. Thanks, Jen.
I
So-
couldn't get,
okay,
I couldn't
Glenn's
get back
here.
on. You can go ahead, Jen, but I'm sorry, I could not find my window. So,
Oh, well, within the governor's budget that was moved forward, there is a 2% change in employee compensation built in for fiscal year 2022. The change in employee compensation was withheld for our current year due to the state budget deficit and the rescission. And there are ongoing talks about whether or not that will be implemented at some point. Glenn, is there anything more?
yeah, I want to make a clarification on the CEC. So the change in employee compensation, or CEC as it's affectionately known, is set by the legislature and administered by the Department of Human Resources under Financial Management. And last year, the legislature had approved a 2% CEC, but they did not give us money to cover the local funds portion of that. However, the university presidents worked with the legislature and with DHR, and we have a pool that's equal to 2% of our appropriated salary base. And so that doesn't equate to a 2% raise pool. The raise pool is somewhere between 1 and 1.5%. We were planning to implement that last spring. And then because of the financial situation of the state, the governor held that 1% back, or excuse me, held that CEC back, and no one in the state received those salary adjustments. In the current proposed budget to the legislature for this year, they have put the money in our base for the CEC that was to be given last year. That would signal to us that there is an intent that we would be able to distribute that next year. But that still has to be approved by the legislature. The second piece is that in the there has been signals from the executive branch and the legislative branch that there may be a CEC component for next year's budget as well. But all of that has to go through the legislative process. So I guess that was the long answer first. The short answer is there's nothing at this point in time that will allow us to move forward with a salary adjustment. But that doesn't mean we're not interested in doing it or that it's off the table. Laura, anything you want to add to that?
Glenn, this
No.
is Rex.
No, go ahead, Rex.
Sorry, Laura. I did see that the governor's recommendation for CEC will be discussed at a meeting next Wednesday. There's a CEC subcommittee that works on that. So we'll probably know a little bit more about what will be in the governor's budget next Wednesday, right?
Yes. And we always
Right,
have to be careful when we see percentages talked about, because they don't give us money based on salaries that are on the local accounts. And so what we typically have to distribute is a little bit less than that percentage.
And Glenn, we have a follow-up question. By next year, do you mean this academic year? Can you clarify?
It would be typically when we implement the CEC, it's for July 1. So it would be July 1 of 2021.
Great, thank you. This next question is for Joanne. Who will be making the decisions for the College of Health for program health action plans when there is not a dean in place yet?
Well, Rex can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Dr. Chris Owens is serving in that capacity right now. I have been communicating with him when he's had questions about program prioritization.
That's correct. He's coordinating that process.
Great, thank you both. Next question is for Laura. Are the increased salary compensations that accompany promotion standardized, or do they vary by department? Can you elaborate on what the amounts are? I have heard various explanations.
This is in reference to the promotion increases, I think, and those are standardized across campus by rank. So the bump is the same at for everyone at that rank. And we do have a list of what those are in the Provost office, but they include the instructor ranks as well. So it's a pretty extensive list, but they are standardized campus-wide.
Great, thanks, Laura. Next question will be for Karen. A statement, then a question. Karen, thank you for stepping in as interim provost. How is it going so far, and what can we do to support you in the coming months?
Well, thank you for that question, and it's my pleasure to do this. I'm very honored to be stepping in right now, and it's going very well so far. As Laura said, Laura's been very generous with her knowledge and her time in helping get me up to speed, as has the entire academic affairs team, State Board of Education, and everybody else who I will start working with closely here pretty quickly. In order to support me, I think the biggest thing I need to know is how to support you. And, you know, when anybody moves into a new position, you don't know what you don't know yet. And so I'm learning that quickly, but I certainly would like to hear from you all about how best I can support you. And we do have, as we've talked about today, we do have several critical priority objectives coming up quickly with program health, budget process, institutional accreditation in the fall. And any questions that you have, you know, I would like to know what those are so that I can be up to speed and as helpful as possible. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Karen. Okay. Next question, back to Health Dean. Just to clarify, there will be no other candidates coming in for the College of Health Dean position. Would this person come in this semester before June 1? And I'm going to lean on Rex for that one.
So that is correct. That there, at least at this point, are no other candidates coming in. This has partially been determined by travel during the COVID pandemic and a situation where we had a dean candidate that was able to come in early. And the second part of that question was what, Jenny? Sorry.
The second part was, would this person come into this semester before June 1?
Yeah, and start date has not been negotiated yet.
Great, thank you. Laura, I will give you this next question. Will the program health reports that have been developed be available for campus-wide review? Some programs did not engage in faculty feedback until late December, so many faculty would like to see what was submitted.
Yes, and Joanne can probably give you a little bit more detail, but those program reports will be available for review. They're going to multiple locations as well. After they go to the provost office, they'll go to the faculty senate and to leadership council. Now, certainly if a faculty member wants to see something that was generated in their own unit, we can certainly provide that as well. And with that, I'll turn that over to Joanne for some specific information about access.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to see any of the materials that were submitted for your program, they're all available in Box. And just let us know if you need access or contact your program director. They're able to share the folders as needed. And it was our intention that faculty members can see any of those materials that are posted in Box. It's all public information. So, but let us know if there's something we can do to help. And we will be reorganizing the narratives, action plans, and quintile lists into new Box folders, simply because what we have is so full already. So we're going to make it a little bit easier to navigate by starting fresh.
There's a lot of information in those files, and so some faculty members have asked for all of them. But just as a trigger warning, there's a lot of information in those files, so we can help you navigate if you're looking for something specific. Also, those files will go back to the programs. So the expectation of the Provost office is that program directors, chairs, and deans will engage with the faculty at every step of this process. So once these are reviewed by the Faculty Senate and by the Leadership Council, they will go back to the programs with some feedback. And at that point, faculty in the program should have another opportunity to review these materials and to make any changes, and to as well as to formulate action plans. Those really should originate with the faculty in the program. So that's our expectation, and that's how the process has been structured. If for some reason you're not receiving information, you can always reach out to us in the Provost office and we can assist with that process.
Great, thanks, Laura. And we have a message for you. On behalf of all of us, I want to say thank you to Laura for her many years of service, her professionalism, and dedication to Idaho State University. We will miss your leadership and best of luck moving forward.
I appreciate that very much. I'm trying not to be emotional on these last weeks. I'm excited about my new opportunities, but it is with a heavy heart that I leave the people that have really made a difference in the lives of our students and in each other. It's what makes ISU the great place that it is, and it's what sets us apart. And with those are the things that I will miss the most, and it's what I'm the most proud of as well. Watching all of you and the huge accomplishments that you all have had over the years that I've had the privilege of being in the Provost office. It is such a privilege to get to see the wide swath of activity in the institution. So few people get that benefit. Many of you know what's happening in your colleges and in your programs. And in the Provost office, we have the great privilege of seeing what all of you do. And it is just a tremendous asset to our students, to the state, and to the world. And perhaps, today I am more conscious than ever of the importance that higher ed plays in the greater world and the value that we bring to society. And that's something that I hope that we can all hold on to in the midst of what has been a pretty rough time. But I appreciate the well wishes. Many of you have sent me some very inspiring notes, and I am working my way through responding to all of those. So that is my goal over the next couple of weeks, is to make sure I respond to everything. So thank you.
Thanks, Laura. And that wraps up our questions. I don't see any more, so I will turn it back over to you and Karen.
Thanks, Jenny. I want to give a special thanks to Jenny for sitting with me and helping facilitate. I think this is 21 town hall, the 21st town hall meeting since last spring. So it's been a lot. Jenny's done them all campus wide. So Jenny, you must be in like the 70s or something. So thank you so much from Academic Affairs and from me personally, and from everyone on campus for your hard work on these town halls. And with that, I want to turn it over to Karen, who's going to share a few words. We're going to have the official transition here. So go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Laura. And it will be a peaceful transition. Promise to everybody. Thank you all for coming today. And of course, I am very honored, and as Laura used the term privileged, and I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to serve ISU and everybody here as the interim provost. So I am very excited to continue to support all of the positive progress, all of the exciting initiatives that Laura, the academic affairs team, the deans, the VPs, and all of you and your faculty and staff have started. I do certainly understand that it is unsettling to have such a significant leadership change at this time. You know, not only are we losing a steadfast, trusted, loyal, and incredibly knowledgeable leader and Bengal in Laura, and then Joanne in the summer. But as we've talked a lot about today, we do have critical priorities sort of knocking at our door with program health and accreditation and those pieces. But I want you all to know that I would not have accepted this role unless I was prepared for and confident in my ability to prepare us and lead us successfully through those priorities. And will continue to do so with Laura's support and, of course, all of the outstanding work that has been done by the academic affairs team, the VPs, the deans, and all of you. We are still, of course, working through our COVID planning for this and upcoming semesters as we adapt to what seems to be an always rapidly changing health landscape in our universe right now. But having taught through the pandemic over the last 3 semesters in the spring, the summer, and the fall, I have a firsthand understanding of the challenges that faculty are facing, both emotional and operational in the classrooms. And I look back on my teaching over the past 3 semesters, and I'm very proud of, the work that we all have been able to do, and the successes that I've had in my class with this heavy lift, with this heavy lift of moving things through. But I also look back and think, there are some opportunities for improvement there. So I want you all to know, in terms of my classes, so I want you all to know that I am, of course, always committed to faculty support and making sure that you have what you need to work through the pandemic, however long that lasts, to ensure that our students continue to have the rigorous, the meaningful, the authentic learning experiences that they have come to expect from an education at ISU. But outside of those priority initiatives, one of the things that I want you all to know that I'm looking most forward to in this role, and Laura just talked about this, but it's learning more about all of the programs, the units, and the departments on campus. One of my favorite things in my 17 years at ISU as a faculty member, as an administrator, as a teacher, has been to connect and coordinate with other units on campus and do research with other faculty members and get to serve your students and just learn what's going on in everybody else's academic worlds outside of my own. And this role will give me a great opportunity to gain that wider institutional lens, so I can help champion and support our programs and our students. So at any time, I welcome the opportunity to visit with you all about your units, and I want to know what your students are up to. I'd love to come see your students and research days and things like that. So please include me on your invitations for that. So I will just wrap up quickly by thanking you all for giving me the opportunity to serve you and to serve your students. And I'm very grateful and looking forward to it.
And that's it for us, Jenny.